We have already ranked all the captains in Bleach. This time, we will talk about the Quincy scripts for you guys and rank them all. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Before we start, here is an explanation of what the Quincies actually are. The Quincy is the polar opposite of Shinigami, a race of spiritually aware humans that are able to manipulate spiritual energy in the world. Yhwach, son of the Soul King and one of these special Quincy, after much experimentation, is able to bestow upon his fellow Quincy the powers known as scripts. Now a script is the name given to the epithet corresponding to each Sternritter's particular ability. When promoted to the rank of Sternritter, a Quincy is allowed to drink from Yhwach's blood and has their soul engraved with the initial of whatever power he chooses to bestow upon them. Yhwach can see in advance which script the Quincy will receive, and therefore, he specially selects the most ideal candidates to empower with these abilities. The first one on the list, the scripts associated with the letters K and N, belonging to the Quincy's KG, 9 and Robert Acutrone, remain undisclosed. Sternritter K functions primarily as a robot, utilizing his mechanical body in combat. Meanwhile, Sternritter N possesses a unique Quincy Volstandig known as Grimmenial, which appears to enhance their speed. However, it is unclear whether either of them ever utilized their scripts in battle, as this was not depicted in the series. As a result, they rank at the very bottom. Sternritter Q, Bernice Gabrielli's script, the question. When engaging in dialogue, this Quincy has a unique ability to paralyze her opponents by challenging their moral philosophy or character. For example, during her confrontation with Kenpachi Zaraki, Bernice sought to question his violent nature by asking if he recognized the perilous path he was on and if he truly understood the weight of his bloodlust. Her goal was to ensnare Zaraki in a battle of wits, forcing him to confront these questions and ultimately wear him down mentally, preventing any physical confrontation until the debate concluded. Sternritter R. A script owned by one of Kenpachi's early victims, Sternritter R, Jerome Gusbitz, is the Roar. This ability allows Quincy to transform his body into a large, feral ape-like form. Not only does this transformation significantly increase his physical strength, but it also enhances his vocal cords, enabling Jerome to unleash a devastating sound wave. Depending on how close an opponent is, this sound wave can severely cripple or even kill them. The Iron is the script owned by Sternritter I, Kong Du. This ability allows the Quincy to completely coat their physical body in hardened iron, which is durable enough to withstand most, if not all, damage. Kong Du is shown to be able to partially cover parts of his body but can also completely encase himself in layers of iron. It was demonstrated that he could withstand sword strikes from Toshiro Hitsugaya and even shatter Hitsugaya's frozen arm by turning it into iron, which was cut through as easily as a stick of butter. Sternritter P, Menina McCallan's script, grants the Quincy superhuman strength at all times, with no need for activation. Menina can easily lift large buildings and throw them, causing tremendous damage to her enemies with her punches or even pushing them through multiple gigantic structures. Additionally, the Quincy can drastically expand the size of her muscles to add even more power to her strikes. The ability also seems to enhance her durability, as Menina was mostly unscathed despite taking damage from a newly evolved Ichigo Kurosaki. The Yourself script is owned by not one but two Quincies, the Lloyd brothers, each holding a different aspect of the script. Lloyd's version of the script allows him not only to steal and imitate a person's appearance but also to completely copy their personality in memories, enabling him to flawlessly mimic his target. In contrast, Lloyd's version, after transforming into his opponent, can perfectly replicate their power level and move set, effectively becoming a clone of their entire fighting style. Meanwhile, Lloyd's version allows him to match an opponent toe-to-toe in battle. However, as Kenpachi Zaraki demonstrates in his fight with the Sternritter, if an opponent can surpass their limits and reach a higher level of strength than what was originally copied, they can defeat the Quincy, as the Quincy cannot grow any further than the point at which the mimicking began. While it's easy to see how this script could potentially trip up many opponents, any fighter with a bit of willpower and the ability to adapt can best a mere copy of the original. Overkill is the script granted to Sternritter O. Driscoll Berkey. After every single kill the Quincy performs, Driscoll's strength and racial level increase. Although the extent of this power increase isn't specifically stated or scaled, after slaughtering 1,000 Shinigami, Driscoll was powerful enough to overwhelm 9th Division Lieutenant Hisagi Shuhei with little effort. Overkill is a script that allows a Quincy to accumulate so much power over many years of war and battle that they could potentially become a monster in terms of offensive strength and durability. However, the time it takes to reach such a level depends on how often the individual is on a killing spree. Additionally, it remains unknown how many bodies they would need to accumulate before gaining a decent amount of strength. The Glutton is the script given to Lil Toto Lamford, Sternritter G. This ability allows the Quincy to expand and extend her mouth, manipulating it into a large maw with jagged teeth. Lil Toto can then devour anything she sets her mind to, although she may not always enjoy the taste depending on the being she consumes. A significant downside of this script is that the Glutton leaves Lil Toto almost constantly hungry and searching for her next meal. Sternritter L. Pepe Wakabrata's script, the Love, grants him a power similar to that of Zameri Ruin, the 7th Espada. The chosen Quincy can fire a heart-shaped projectile that, upon making contact with an opponent, causes them to fall madly in love with the script's user, becoming infatuated. The victim will then follow any and all orders from the user, including attacking allies or fighting against obviously impossible odds. Upon reaching full potential, Pepe's belongings, specifically, his floating basket, become unraveled, producing multiple ropes made of linked hearts that can be thrown at a target. By stabbing the victim with these ropes, they become completely immobilized by love. However, the Love's fatal weakness lies in its dependency on the victim's emotions. The ability has trouble penetrating opponents with strong emotional barriers, meaning it struggles against those with guarded hearts or who lack a heart entirely, such as buildings or inanimate objects. Sternritter W. Nianzal Wiesel's script, the Wind, grants him the ability to deflect any kind of attack from a target of his choosing. Any incoming offense is bent or moved out of the way instead of being countered directly, resulting in weapons entering the Quincy's target range twisting or contorting in the opposite direction. The user does not even have to be aware of the incoming attack, rendering surprise or sneak strategies ineffective against this script. The Wind can also be used offensively, as demonstrated when Nianzal points his finger at an opponent and distorts their body, splitting them in half. The script bestowed upon Sternritter U, Nanana Najaku, is called the Underbelly. Given enough time, this ability allows its user to completely analyze a target's Ryatsu and determine the body's entire distribution of spiritual power. By deducing the target's unique pattern, the Quincy imprints their epithet letter onto the victim's distribution network, causing a grid pattern to appear that reveals weak points within the person's soul. This tactic was even able to take down someone as powerful as Sosuke Aizen after he fused with the Hogyoku. However, the Underbelly's major downside is the lengthy period of time it requires before it can take effect. Without proper preparation, the script is often outclassed in most, if not all, combat situations. The script of Sternritter S, Masked the Masculine, is called the Superstar. This ability allows its user to gain a considerable amount of strength, stamina, and vigor from the cheers of nearby onlookers or fans. Even the support of just one person is enough to elevate a Quincy to a level comparable to that of a Shinigami captain, as well as to regenerate any, if not all, damage sustained. This includes full organs, such as eardrums, which can heal even after being blown out, demonstrating that the support from fans does not require them to be physically harmed. Anyone with a sufficient amount of power can overpower both the fans and the user simultaneously, or even before either can revive, whether through massive attacks or superior speed. Despite its incredibly high utility, the Superstar can indeed be overcome. The script bestowed upon Sternritter Z, Giselle Gawel, is called the Zombie. This ability allows its user to turn any person, dead or alive, into an absent-minded and obedient corpse after making contact with even a small amount of the Quincy's blood. As the target's strength increases, more blood is required to take control of the victim. While under the user's control, these zombies can be given simple tasks, such as committing suicide or turning against their former allies. Those who are zombified before actually dying are said to be even stronger than they were when alive, as they are replaced with newly formed cells upon transformation. This script usually cannot affect other Quincies, however, after their death, the user's blood can take effect on them. The only downside seems to be that the established control over the victims is easily overridden. The jail is the script granted to Sternritter J. Quill Jopi, perfectly fitting his role as the hunting warden during the conquest of Hueco Mundo. This ability allows him to conjure up Racier and create constructs that can forcibly close gateways between dimensions or manifest a cage to trap opponents inside. Once trapped, the jail completely cuts off the victim's presence, sealing their Racier within and making them undetectable, even if they attempt to establish outside lines of communication. While the victim can hear incoming audio, no signals can be transmitted outside the Racier prison. While the victim can hear incoming audio, no signals can be transmitted outside the Racier prison. This is clearly why its chosen user, Jugram, compensates for this weakness by being vastly powerful in all other aspects of Quincy powers. If Jugram could create more than one of these prisons, it would be exceedingly overpowered. However, if that were the case, he could simply trap every opponent he encounters. The script granted to Sternritter E. Bambietta Basterbine, known as the Explode, gives its user the ability to create bombs from manipulated Racier. At first glance, it appears that the user is throwing pure bombs, but the ability functions quite differently. As explained by Bambietta, the Explode actually transforms whatever the user's Racier comes into contact with into a bomb. This not only expands the attack's range but also makes it nearly impossible to block, as any object that gets in its path becomes an explosion itself. Notably, it was powerful enough to counteract and offset flames from Ujinjaka, the strongest fire Zanpakuto in history, allowing Basby and his fellow Quincies to evade an attack from head Captain Yamamoto with minimal damage. If it weren't for the more complex and hack-like scripts that follow on this list, Basby's abilities would surely stand out as supreme. The Thunderbolt is an exceptionally versatile script bestowed upon Sternritter T. Candace Catnip, empowering her with the ability to conjure and manipulate lightning. This script is commonly utilized by generating lightning in Candace's hands, which can then be launched in the direction she points. The electricity can also be solidified to create melee weapons, and more powerful bolts of lightning can be summoned from the sky to inflict massive damage over wide areas. The Thunderbolt's final attack is called Electrocution, where Candace calls down lightning from the sky, using her body as a conduit for an overwhelming surge of power. Once enveloped in a surge of electricity, she can unleash this charge at her opponent, resulting in a massive explosion of thunder and energy. The Fear is the script gifted to Sternritter F. as Not, and it embodies the power to induce crippling terror in its victims. As Not can infect a person with fear by stabbing or even merely grazing them with his thorns of Racier. Once infected, an opponent experiences a profound and paralyzing dread, causing them to doubt everything and lose control of rational thought. They are relentlessly haunted by visions of their deepest fears, which often lead to instant death due to the massive strain placed on their heart. Once exposed to even a single glance, limitless fear sets in, remaining embedded in the victim's memories, rendering it impossible to be unseen, even if they close their eyes. The Fear functions similarly to a one-hit kill technique, making it nearly inescapable when its effects take hold, especially with terror forests active. The first instance of a Quincy power not stemming from Yhwach's influence is Pranita Parnkyas, who was born with its power due to being the left hand of the Soul King. The Compulsory allows Pranita to control its own nerves and extend them outside of its body, using them to infiltrate an opponent and forcibly manipulate their movements. The user can also cause irreparable damage almost instantaneously once its nerves invade a target's body, capable of warping an opponent's arm into a puddle of blood or crushing the body of even a giant victim. The speed and destructive capacity of the Compulsory are formidable, capable of eliminating most threats before they even realize what is happening. Even a monster like Kenpachi would have been reduced to goo had he not reacted in time to avoid losing his arm to the Quincy. While the nerves can be pushed back by intense ryatsu or by altering the anatomical structure of whatever is invaded, the largest drawback is that exposure to air causes the nerves to inflict pain on the user. The only other letter shrifts besides Yhwach's that offer two versions of their ability is the antithesis, which was bestowed upon the only Quincy immune to the Oswal, Uryu Ishida. The antithesis is a script typically reserved for last resort or final attacks, maximizing its effectiveness upon activation. When invoked, the antithesis immediately reverses the conditions of two chosen targets by the user. This means that if the user is heavily damaged and on the brink of death, they can choose themselves and their opponent, completely switching positions. As a result, the opponent takes on all the pain and wounds originally suffered by the Quincy. The script assigned to Sternritter Grand Master Jugram Hashwalth, known as the Balance, grants him the ability to absorb any and all misfortune or bad luck that occurs within his range. This power allows him to redistribute these misfortunes to others in the area who have experienced good fortune. The result is often the complete nullification of an opponent's abilities or the deflection of wounds inflicted on Hashwalth back onto the attacker. This process is described as returning balance to the world. While the user is free to inflict additional damage as they see fit, it appears that the scales of balance can be tipped against the Quincy if he wills it. This was demonstrated when Hashwalth absorbed Oriheim's misfortune and wounds before ultimately passing away. The script of the self-proclaimed strongest Sternritter and my personal favorite Quincy, Sternritter v Grammy Thummer, is called the Visionary. This incredible ability allows him to turn fantasy into reality. More specifically, anything that the chosen Quincy imagines or thinks about can be either brought into existence or used to alter reality itself. For example, if Grammy imagines an opponent's skeletal structure as being made of cookies, this will actually warp reality and make it true. Through the power of imagination, the chosen Quincy can bend reality to their will, bypassing barriers by visualizing themselves inside structures. They can also negate the abilities of more complicated opponents by simply imagining those powers out of existence, rendering themselves immune. However, the mind, while a potent force, can easily undermine its own power if not properly managed. Gerard Valkyrie's innate ability, known as the Miracle, is the second Quincy power that isn't a script granted by Yhwach's essence. Instead, the Miracle is a natural power bestowed upon the heart of the Soul King, fundamentally revolving around the concepts of hope and probability manipulation. As its name implies, the Miracle allows its user to create miracles, transforming impossible outcomes into possible ones. Additionally, the Miracle grants its user an extension through their spirit weapon, Pufnam. By harnessing the hopes of the people around them, this enormous spirit sword can inflict despair on anyone attempting to extinguish that hope. To put it plainly, a small nick on the blade can transform into a significantly critical slash on the body of the individual responsible for the attack. The Miracle also gains strength from those who oppose it. When opponents question their ability to defeat the user, their doubt is harnessed to increase Gerard's size and power, proportional to the damage inflicted upon him. It's difficult to deny that the Miracle outclasses most, if not all, other Quincy powers. Whether that is fair or not is up to interpretation. The script of the Quincy King himself, the son of the Soul King, is known as the Almighty. When activated, it splits the user's iris, granting them the ability to perceive everything that is currently happening and everything that has yet to occur. This power allows Yhwach to view every single possibility and event from the present to the far future, visualizing these futures not as a single linear path but as individual grains of sand scattered by the wind, each representing infinite potential outcomes. Yhwach most effectively exploits this ability by setting up traps or attacks in the future, where he knows his opponents will be. This creates the illusion that injuries or strikes appear out of nowhere or seem completely random, when in reality, the trap has been waiting for the precise moment when events play out as he anticipated. This foresight allows him to outmaneuver any countermeasures or strategies that opponents may devise, as he has already planted the seeds of their destruction preemptively. Additionally, he can absorb other beings entirely through the Almighty, consuming entities from even higher planes and acquiring their strength. The time required to fully assimilate their power depends on the disparity between their levels of strength. It's no surprise that the Almighty claims the #1 spot among Quincy abilities. If there are any other rankings you completely disagree with, feel free to let me know in the comments. Or, if you'd like, just share your favorite script instead. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end.